My parents skipped my near-fatal crash to attend my brother's award ceremony. They thought I'd still be their backup bank, but what I did made them regret ever choosing him over me. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I remember the beep of the heart monitor clearer than the crash itself. One moment I was merging onto Imanus 90, on my way to a weekend retreat after finally using my toe. The next, I was being wheeled through double doors under blinding lights. Someone kept asking for my name. I mumbled, Haley Simmons. What I didn't know then was that my parents already knew about the accident. The hospital had called them twice. They never showed. I didn't find that out until 3 days later, still stitched up and bruised. When Aunt Lydia visited with flowers and an Uber Eats bag, her face pale with worry. I called your mom, she said gently. She told me they had Gabriel's big award thing that night. Corporate rising star. Said they'd visit when they got back from Boston. I blinked at her so they knew I was in a wreck, that I was in emergency surgery. She nodded. Haley, they didn't want to ruin his night. It didn't register right away. I just lay there, frozen. A hospital gown itchy against my arms. The scar down my side was still fresh, the staples angry red. They left me bleeding in a trauma unit so they could applaud Gabriel getting his 3rd promotion. When my parents finally did show up 4 days after the crash, they brought a card that said, "Keep pushing forward," and a reusable Whole Foods bag of snacks. No hug, no we're sorry. Just a proud story about how Gabriel gave a speech about family values in front of the entire investment division. My mother actually smiled when she said it. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at the vending machine across from my bed and nodded like I was listening. But that day, something in me hardened. I was back on my feet in 3 weeks, thanks to physical therapy and a high tolerance for pain. I didn't answer their calls after discharge, not until 5 months later, when the knock came. It was a Sunday. I had meal prepped, cleaned, and just curled up with my budgeting app when I saw Claire, my mother, at my door. "Hi, sweetie," she said too brightly. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. Thomas Simmons stepped out from behind her. My dad, still in his country club polos like nothing in the world could ever touch him. They didn't ask how I was. They didn't apologize. They asked for $48,000. Gabriel, their golden boy, had been arrested for wire fraud and misappropriation of investor funds. They needed cash for the first part of the legal retainer. "Fast, it's just temporary," Dad said. "Once this blows over, he'll be reinstated." My mouth tasted like metal. "You weren't there when I was in ICU," I said, voice flat. "But now that he's in trouble, you remembered I exist?" They flinched, but only a little. "Haley," Mom said, her voice saccharine and tired at once, "we didn't come here to fight. You've always been so level-headed, so responsible. You have savings. Your brother's whole career is on the line." That's when I realized they saw me as a bank, not a daughter. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about how calm they looked when they asked for the money. No shame, no panic, just entitlement. Something felt off. Gabriel had always been a star valedictorian, Cornell grad, youngest up in his firm by 30. He played piano at charity events and posted about financial literacy on LinkedIn like a guru. So how the hell did he end up needing nearly 50 grand for a lawyer? I opened my laptop, heart pounding, Googled his firm, Fraser Bray Equity Management. Front page headline: VUP of investment strategy, under investigation for securities fraud and misrepresentation. I clicked it. The details were worse than I imagined. $1, $7 million missing, misleading returns to clients, internal whistleblower. And then a name dropped halfway through the article: Gabriel Simmons allegedly instructed junior analysts to falsify records. I blinked. Read it. My own brother. The same guy they made me sit through 8-hour slideshow nights for every time he got promoted. Nowhere in that article did it mention anything about this temporary misunderstanding they'd told me about. I kept digging. Fraser Bray had cut ties immediately. Their corporate spokesperson made it clear Gabriel's actions were intentional, premeditated, and financially damaging. My hands went cold. They didn't come here because they were scared. They came here because they were cornered. Monday morning, I logged into my online banking just out of instinct. I didn't trust the air around me anymore, and that's when I saw it. A login attempt from an unknown device. To 17 Emma failed password tries 3 locations Saratoga Ridge guest it pool. My stomach dropped. That was my parents' neighborhood. I hadn't given them access. Not since I started rebuilding my emergency fund after the crash, but someone tried, and recently, I checked the email logs. There it was again, an automated bank statement request sent to a masked email. I hovered over it. Gabriel Simmons Legalerville game. He tried to access my accounts. No, not tried. He was planning something. And I'd bet everything I had that my parents were helping him. The only question now was how much were they hiding? I wasn't going to the police, not yet. That would tip them off. I needed evidence, solid, irrefutable, cold, so I called Naomi Foster. Naomi Foster had seen her share of family messes. She used to intern with me back when I was still figuring out what a Gantt chart was. Now she was a full-fledged attorney, sharp-tongued, allergic to bullshit, and one of the only people I knew who never flinched at uncomfortable truths. I met her that Thursday at a tiny cafe halfway between her office and mine. When I slid my phone across the table open to the screenshot of the unauthorized Logan attempt and Gabriel's masked email, she barely blinked. Jesus, she muttered, they're already attempting financial trespass. They're going to say I offered, I whispered. If he drains my account, they'll frame it as me being emotional, supportive, complicit. Naomi looked me dead in the eyes. Do not transfer anything. Not even $10, and whatever you do, don't let them know you've seen this yet. I nodded, my throat tight. She took out a legal pad. All right, first thing we bait them, make them feel safe again. Then we find out how far this goes. How simple, she said. You tell them you might be willing to help, but only if you get a full breakdown of what's happening with Gabriel's case. They'll never send real files, I said. They won't have to, Naomi replied. We're not after their documents, we're after their devices. That's when it clicked. We weren't collecting proof by asking. We were going to take it. That Sunday, I invited them over for brunch, told them I'd been thinking about it, that I wanted to understand more before making any decision. They arrived with hope smeared across their faces like cheap foundation. Thomas wore his relaxed dad smile, the one he pulled out for realtor meetings and hoe elections. Clara brought lemon bars. I placed my old phone on the charger dock in the kitchen like I always did. What they didn't know was that the mic had been reactivated by Naomi's office. And the whole place was live recording to my cloud account. I needed them to talk, not about love, not about family. I needed them to say what they were really after. I just need to know, I said calmly, stirring coffee. What exactly did Gabe do? My mom's eyes flickered. My dad looked annoyed. Sweetheart, Thomas said, you don't need to burden yourself with the details. There's a lot of exaggeration going around. The firm's overreacting. Some data discrepancies, that's all, and the $1,700,000 technicalities. He snapped, before softening. Look, this isn't about guilt. It's about protecting the family name. That word again, family, it never meant me. I let them keep talking. Let my father mention Gabriel's new contact, who could process things quietly if legal funding came through in time. Every word, every pause was being uploaded, and then it happened, the slip. We can pull some funds from her account if needed. My mom whispered when she thought I'd left to grab napkins. She wouldn't even notice. I clenched the napkin holder so hard it left an imprint on my palm. They weren't just asking for help, they were plotting theft, and I had it all recorded. Naomi warned me not to confront them yet. She said we needed more, something tamper-proof, like device logs or cloud backups. But I couldn't sit still. After hearing my own mother whisper about stealing from me, I was boiling from the inside out. So I snapped. I called them Monday night. I know what you're doing, I said, my voice low and trembling. You weren't asking for help, you were staging a withdrawal. Silence, then my father's voice, cold as ice. What are you talking about? I have it recorded. Another pause. Then he chuckled. Haley, come on, you're not well. You've been under a lot of stress since the accident. He was darvoing me. Deny attack, reverse victim and offender. Like a goddamn script. You said you'd take funds without my consent. I heard you. You're twisting our words. My mom chimed in, voice suddenly tearful. All we've done is try to protect this family. I hung up before I screamed. Naomi called me 5 minutes later. Haley, we've got a problem. The cloud folder where the audio had uploaded? Wiped, not by me, not by her. I think they hacked into your cloud account, she said. That or someone else close to them did. Do you use the same passwords anywhere? I felt my stomach collapse inward. My backup drive still in the apartment. I had to get to it. I drove home like my life depended on it. Swiped my key, flung open the closet, pulled the red lockbox I always kept buried under off-season blankets. The drive was gone. Not moved, not buried under papers, gone. And in its place was a note, no handwriting. Just typed Arial on printer paper. This is for your own good. You're spiraling, let us handle it. My knees buckled. They'd been inside. I didn't even want to know how they'd gotten in a spare key, a lopkick. Didn't matter, they'd entered my home, taken evidence I hadn't even told them existed. And left a note like they were the victims. I curled up on the living room floor, phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. But I couldn't even call Naomi. They were 2 steps ahead again. Just like always, I stayed offline for 2 days, canceled work, didn't respond to texts. I was back at square one. No evidence, no leverage, just my word against theirs again. On Wednesday night, I sat on the floor of my storage closet, surrounded by old bins of college notebooks and half-used art supplies. I was reaching for a blanket when I spotted it in an old frame. Cracked glass inside, a photo from my internship, me, Naomi, and our former boss. Behind us, on the wall, hung a massive project timeline printout, and right beneath it, my own whiteboard of personal tasks. I leaned closer. One item stood out, and faded green marker backup financial docs to personal cloud updated 18 months ago. My heart started hammering. That week, that was right after I filed my taxes and got paranoid about identity theft. And I remembered something else back then. I didn't trust Google Drive. I'd used an old-school encrypted backup app that uploaded to a secure TiFi Naomi had helped me set up. She made me write the password down on paper because I kept forgetting it. Where had I kept that? I practically tore apart the box labeled tax receipts, and there it was inside a yellow folder with post-its all over it. Access code 47 Nays Haley Valtone. The code worked. I sat on Naomi's couch that night, knees bouncing, throat dry, while she typed it into her laptop and accessed the off-site backup. Please, I whispered. Let it be there. The screen blinked, then a loading bar appeared. 2 folders, one labeled Haley Finances. The other 2023 evidence storage. She clicked the second. Inside were 4 compressed audio files and a folder marked Doc Scan Imports. I forgot I ever made these, I said, staring. Naomi opened one of the audio files. It was my parents again, the same conversation from brunch. But this time, I'd done more than record it. I'd backed it up with a time-stamped audit trail from the TiFi provider, immutable metadata, and then we opened the Doc Scan Imports folder. There, in blurry but legible form, was a scanned def of a WIMIS2 form filed under my name, but the employer was Fraser Bray. I never worked there. Gabriel had used my CNI. Naomi's face tightened. Oh my God, she whispered. They were planning to move assets under your name. Maybe more. She clicked into the metadata of the def, created 342 Amam Ip Simmons home Wi-Fi. It was more than theft. It was financial identity fraud. This is enough, Naomi said, voice shaking with quiet anger. Not just to clear your name, but to take this to court. If we wanted, and my hands trembled as I whispered, let's do it. We didn't go to the police. Not first, we went to Gabriel's old firm. Naomi set a meeting with their legal team. When they saw the backup audio, the falsified WIMI2, and the linked IP, their posture shifted fast. One of the legal reps, a gray-haired woman named Marla, actually blinked twice and said, I think we're going to need to reopen discovery. Then we went to my bank's fraud division. I showed them the access logs, the WIMIS2, and Naomi submitted a notarized statement. They locked my accounts immediately, froze everything pending formal investigation. 3 days later, a case number landed in my inbox. My parents called. I didn't pick up. Then came the email. Haley, we know you're upset, but this was never meant to hurt you. Gabriel just needed help. We're family. That should still mean something. No apology, no remorse, just manipulation dressed up as guilt. Naomi and I prepared a final file, all the evidence, organized and annotated, and sent it to the state attorney's office. She handled the legal language. I wrote the final paragraph myself. I was nearly killed in a car crash, and they never came. But they showed up when my savings account had a balance worth stealing. They didn't see me as family, just funding. It happened faster than I expected. 3 weeks after we filed the report, I got a call from the firm's legal liaison. Gabriel had been officially named in the internal fraud audit, and Fraser Bray was cooperating with the Attorney General's office. They found more email chains between Gabriel and a third-party accounting consultant, one who had also been flagged in 2 unrelated money laundering probes, a connection between Gabriel's Shell LX and 3 accounts that had suspicious wire activity, all under different names. One of them, again, was mine. The same day that news broke, I got a message from my old college roommate. Is that your brother on the news? Holy SHT Haley. I opened the clip. A stiff-faced anchorwoman, Gabriel Simmons, former VP of investment strategy at Fraser Bray, is now facing a formal indictment on multiple counts of securities fraud, identity theft, and financial misrepresentation. His mugshot flashed across the screen, slicked hair, blank stare. I didn't feel joy, I didn't feel revenge, I felt released. My parents didn't contact me for days after the indictment. When they finally did, it wasn't a call or a text, it was a letter, handwritten from Clara. Haley, this family is falling apart. Are you happy now? You always had your head down, always the quiet achiever. But we didn't think you'd turn on us like this. He's your brother. He made mistakes, but he's still blood. I stopped reading. She never mentioned my crash, never mentioned trying to drain my account, never said sorry. I threw the letter in the trash. That was the last time I heard from either of them. Weeks later, I logged into that secure vault again, not to find evidence but to reclaim it. I uploaded my own narrative this time, a def titled Financial Abuse Isn't Just About Money, What I Learned from Surviving My Family. I wrote down everything, the accident, the betrayal, the recordings, the way silence was used like a weapon in my family, dressed up as dignity, but always protecting the wrong person. And then I attached one last document, a certified name change request. I was done being Haley Simmons. I signed the form Haley Carson. After Aunt Lydia, the only one who showed up when I was bleeding and alone. It's been 6 months. Gabriel's trial is set for the fall. My parents are under investigation for accessory fraud. Naomi helped me freeze every single account that had been touched. I've started giving talks, small ones, at women's financial literacy circles, telling my story, teaching them what I learned too late. No one gets to use your silence against you. No one gets to call it family when it's just control. And the savings account they tried to steal? I emptied it, used every dollar to start a financial coaching app for women escaping controlling families and partners. It's called Unshadow. Because I'm done living in someone else's spotlight, I built my own. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.